let's run through a few other animations that we can do. The first one, we're going to delete the cat, and then we're going to go ahead and add in the bat sprite. So we'll search for bat. Notice it has multiple costumes, so we can see those different costumes there. We'll move the bat over just a little bit. To do scaling, we can manually manipulate the size. So for instance, I can go down to a 10. The bat gets pretty small. We can go up to 30, 50, or back up to even more than 100. We can go up to 120. So rather than do that manually, to do our animation, we want to do that in code. So for this, I also want to be able to control a couple different things. So I'm going to create two variables, and we're going to create a variable for the size of the bat, so what our scaling is, and I'm also going to make a variable for the speed, so we can control how fast he's moving, and we'll need those eventually, so we'll go ahead and drag those out. What we'll also need to do is we'll need to set values for those, so we might as well go ahead and say let's set our size and our speed, and later on we'll do some changes of those variables, so we'll go ahead and bring those out while we're here. We'll go up to our events. Like most of our code, we want to have an event to start things out. One of the things that we've not looked at is we can also determine which costume we want to start with. So you may want to start or end with a certain costume. So we can also determine at the start of our code each time, put the sprite into a certain state. So there's, if we have a D, okay. So we'll start him out at B. Let's set out our size. We'll start him down at 10. That was pretty small. And for speed, we'll do a 0.4. Okay. Now, for events, or I'm sorry, for control, we want to go ahead and we're going to repeat our animation. We'll start out with 10 times, and then we can adjust. Okay. And then, in order to change the size, in the looks, we have a block that says set size to 100%. So notice right now size is 120. If I click that block, it takes it down to 100. I can take it down all the way down to 10 and click it, and notice he gets really small. So here's where we're going to start our size at 10, and then each time through the loop we're going to adjust our size. So we're going to say set size to whatever our size variable is. We'll put that code in, and then we're going to want to change each time through the loop. We're going to want to change our size by, let's just change it by 10 to make it easy, and we'll go ahead and run that. And again, notice he gets smaller to bigger. Okay. Now we want the we want to change to the next costume each time to give us the appearance that he's flapping. And then back in our control, we need to slow things down. So we'll go ahead and say that we want to wait for, and here we're going to use our variable for speed, because that's going to let us play around with that a little bit. So there, our bat's flying towards us. Okay. Now, the thing we can do is we can adjust the speed also, so as he gets closer to us, he'll either get faster and do it faster or do it slower. So let's say I want to, and we don't want too big of a value, so instead of a 0.5 we might want to do a 0.05. Okay, and then we'll change, instead of my variable, we're going to change the speed. So let's go ahead and run that. And if you watch up here, your speed variable, it's getting slower. Now, most animations, when it's coming towards you, normally it gets faster. So let's change this to a negative 0.5, so that the speed's going to get faster each time. And also, let's change our repeat. Let's let's go a little bit bigger, so we'll jump that to 15. And notice as he gets closer, he gets faster. It might have been a bit too fast, so let's change that to negative 0.02. Okay, that looks pretty good. For our next animation, we're going to look at doing rotation. So we'll go ahead and hide the bat. And then we'll go ahead and load up a stick figure that I created that works well to illustrate this animation. So when we look at the stick figure down in direction, we can do a rotation manually using the direction control, or in code we have options to turn. So there we can say turn to the right, or we have turn to the left 15 degrees. So when I click that, he's going to rotate. The other thing I can do is I can point him in a specific direction. Remember, 90 is our original position. Okay, so in our variables, we are not going to use size and speed, but to control where he's at, we're going to use an xval variable, and we're going to use a yval, so we can control the x and y values. And we also want to do something with the turning. We're going to use a variable for that, so we can control that in a couple different ways. So we know we're going to need to set those variables to starting positions, so we'll go ahead and drag those out. And we'll need the actual variables, so while we're here, let's just go ahead and get those. Okay, and then we're also going to want to change those variables in our code at some point in time, so we'll just bring those out as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and set our x and our y values and our turn value also to the starting values. So we'll start the turn at 15. Position wise, we're going to do a cartwheel, so we'll start him over at negative 200, and y will be 0, will be fine. So for events, we'll do when the space bar. Okay, and then that'll put him in the starting position. We'll point him in the 90-degree direction. Okay, and then let's go ahead and we'll do our repeat loop. So we'll start with 10. We know we want to turn him. Now instead of 15 degrees, we're going to use a variable for that, so we can change that. So there we go. Now we're also going to want him to move to do the cartwheel. So we'll use our glide. And when we glide, we'll want to put him in the X position and the Y position, and we'll glide for 0.1 seconds. Okay. So if we run that, we didn't change our X value, so he's staying in the same place. So let's go ahead and after we move him, we'll change X value by, we'll just change him by 10. Okay. Now, 10's not enough, and notice it puts us in a funny position. So what we're going to do is a calculation. So what we know is a circle is 360 degrees. So if we take 360 degrees, and then if we, I'll duplicate my turn variable. If we divide by the how much we're turning, that's going to make him go one rotation. Okay, so let's run that again. Okay, so he starts out, he's going to go across the screen 360 degrees for the amount of time that we told him. Okay, and let's say we want him to turn. So here we're doing more of a rotation at a slower speed. Now the other thing I can do is if I want to extend him out a little bit while I'm here, I can go ahead and say I'm going to want to run the animation twice. Okay, but then we'll still calculate that. And there's the second time. Now, what we also want to do is a couple variations on this. So let's duplicate this code, and we'll change it to a, we'll start out with an A, and then let's just change a couple things. So instead of doing a somersault left to right, let's go ahead and we will start him in the middle of the x-axis, and then we're going to start him towards the top of the screen, so 135. And then the other thing we're going to change, instead of changing the x value, we're going to change the y value. So when we run this code, oh, he's going up instead of down. We don't want that, so let's stop that code. And we're going to want our y value to change -5. Okay, there we go. So now he's doing a somersault down. Now, one more change we can do, so let's duplicate this code, is let's say we want him to do a somersault where he's also going down and also to the right. So we're going to want to increase the x value. So we'll need one of these changes. So we're going to change the x value. And I don't want him to go to the right as much as down, so we'll make this a 2 instead of, okay. Now, let's also change our turning. So we'll make him turn 30 degrees instead of 15 degrees. And since we're doing that, let's go ahead and double our repeat. And we could actually calculate and use a variable there if we wanted to adjust things. So, and then also, before we start, I'm going to want to move the x value. I'm going to want to move him off to the left a little bit because he's going to run to the left to right. So let's go ahead and run that. And notice this time he's doing a somersault going from the left part of the screen towards the right slowly, but still happening. And notice the change in the rotation there as well.